The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to Bite by Bite. He is Michael Coleman, the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank. They cover 65 counties in the lower part of the great state of Alabama. And we love doing this show every single week as we help, of course, in the service world of trying to feed the needy through Feeding America as well. And last week you just started something about basically helping and educating people and donors, what exactly you do, and certainly finding empathy and the challenges of what something you do every single day, and that is feeding our folks. You did the first half of it last week. You're going to pick up the second half this week.
Yeah, just we were just talking about some of the challenges, and if people are not in this space, forget nonprofit. It could be, food banking specifically. It could be in the nonprofit world, and how do you get people to care about what you're doing? Mm-hmm. And that's really the responsibility, at least in part, of every CEO, is to project a message out there where somebody's going to respond and say, yeah, I care enough about this issue that I'm willing to give my hard-earned money, whether it's $10 or whether it's, $1,000. The message is enough. It moves me enough. And to be able to do that. And I'm not talking about just plucking on the heartstrings, because a lot of people, there's some that can be moved emotionally, and we want that sometimes, but there needs to be real substance. We don't want to just put a starving child on TV every time and have that, we want people to look at, hey, this could be our next mayor. This could be our next, this child could grow up. These are the next leaders in our community. But they're facing barriers right now, and with food insecurity, and if we don't help them overcome that, then they're not going to grow up, or at least there's a danger of them not growing up to become what we believe they have the capacity to be. And so it could have long-term damage to our community, not just to these individuals. So lots of times it's all about how do you appeal to people to get them out of their preconceived notions. Because look, we live in a country that values self-sufficiency. Mm-hmm. When one of the things that is very common when I meet somebody and they say it to me or I say it to them is, well, what do you do for a living? And it's a way to engage them in a conversation. But in part, it speaks to the idea that we value that. It's not that position has to be something prestigious, but I want to know what you do, with the assumption is, well, everybody in the middle class, they're doing something, they're working, they're providing for their families, some sort of connection. It's not a question that's asked with people in poverty. When you have conversations with people in poverty, it's that's never a conversation would lead like that. It usually leads to, well, what family you're from, where you're from, what neighborhood you're from, that kind of stuff. So when I'm out there talking to donors, a large part of what we do is we have to talk about people who aren't self-sufficient. And lots of times, if you grow up and you're taught self-sufficiency and, don't depend on anybody, you need to make your own way, pick yourself up by the bootstraps, all those sayings. Well, the truth is that you're able to do that because you have help along the way. You have parents that provide you a safe environment that allow you to go to college or allow you to go to training and provide the means for you to do that. Nobody is truly self-sufficient in that they were just born into this life. They took care of themselves.
Sure.
So everybody's had help. Most of us have crashed and burned and done some really stupid things and had people come along, not necessarily parents, but people come along. And then let's say you overcome that immaturity, or you get through adolescence and you kind of settle down, you got a family, you start growing up. And I've seen people look back and go, well, I'm a self-made man. And it's just a little bit of a misnomer how we get there. And what I try to do is help people understand that people who are not self-sufficient or who have need are really no different than they were. I try to help them connect with the time in their life that they needed support and they were able to get it. what would have happened to them if that support had not been available?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens lots of times with the people we're serving. They are not any different than you and I are, Tony. They simply, when they crashed and burned and they had their moment of most need, there was not a support system by which to prop them up. And so then they're kind of exposed. They didn't have the liberty, if you will, to hide their challenges. I said this a long time ago, that the difference between middle class and poverty class is that we in the middle class have enough resources to hide our crazy,
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of drama going on. We have a lot of crazy going on. We do a lot of stupid things. Well, if you have enough resources, all right, I'll just go to the doctor and get some medication, or I'll go to the doctor, or I'll do this, or I'll call my parents and they'll slide me 10,000 along, whatever. So you can hide all that. But when you're in poverty and you crash and burn, it's just out there for all to see. There's no resources to cover that up. And so I really try to speak to people and go, look, when people are exposed, that doesn't make them different than us. It just means that due to a lack of resources, we've all become aware because they're standing in a food line. Now we know behind the scenes they're hungry or they're not able to provide for their kids. And so rather than meet that with judgment, we need to look at them in the same way that we would hope that we would be looked at if we didn't have our support system propping us up and helping us up. And the truth of the matter is most people are open to that. There's some people that are hardened towards the poor. If you're poor, it's because you're lazy, you don't work hard, you don't try enough, you don't have the fortitude to overcome barriers, all that kind of stuff. But I'm encouraged to say that that's not the majority. Even if you do take a harder line, when you begin to talk about and break it down to us as humans, and that you are where you are, at least in part, because you had some resources, you had some people come alongside of you, you had some people that were like, it's okay, I'm going to get you through this tough place. And all you're doing is you're looking at a group of people, whether it's an individual, whether it's a family, whatever, who don't have that same support. So there, by the grace of God, you know how the saying goes, there goes I. We all could have been in that situation. So I think one of the great things that we're called to do is those that have the means to provide for ourselves. I love the idea of saying, but I also am going to carve out some to take care of others. And I think, we talked about maybe in the last show about the evils out there in the world and the poverty and all the barriers and all that's how you overcome it. You love your neighbor enough to go, hey, your well-being is important to me, and I'm going to put forth, the resources to help you to be able to overcome some of the challenges. When you do kind of break through, there still tends to be a hesitancy with some people about fear of people are gaming the system. I hear this all the time.
Yeah.
Well, people are getting food stamps and maybe they're selling their food stamps and maybe they're doing this. And, and how do you know whether somebody's gaming the system or not? And I tell them, we have agencies that we hear reports. And if we hear a report, I have terminated agencies who are distributing the food that we give to them in unethical ways.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, it happens. You're never going to create a system, whether it's a government system, whether it's a private system, where you're helping people, that some people are not going to take advantage of it. But if your primary goal is to eliminate all of that, then you will make it a food bank or an agency, if you will, a food pantry. You'll make that experience so degrading and so, because you'll put every check and balance that's possible in the world. And, I'm to the point to where I say, look, we want everybody who can serve this food to get it and distribute it and help. We do emphasize certain things. We are watching for it. We do catch agencies that do it, and we're not indifferent to if somebody is taking food intended for the poor and selling it or doing other things. We deal with it. But if we said, well, if that was our number one priority, we wouldn't be able to distribute 30 million pounds of food a year because we'd be so worried that somebody was getting something and doing something with it they shouldn't have. So it's like you can worry about all that, or you can just do due diligence, but stay focused on those who need help. Continue to encourage those who don't walk in that space to come be a part of, and actually interact with those who are suffering. You'll see your heart changed, and you'll see your perspective change if you let it. And I'll kind of end with this. You know, historically, it's always been said that the vast majority of us, as we get older, we get locked into who we are. Mm-hmm. And I've really tried to not be that person, because I'm encountering new things. I'm 58 years old. I'm encountering new things all the time. And I want to see my heart moved. I think we talked about in the last show about the kids in Gaza and the suffering they're going through. And I can't live in that place because my heart hurts too bad. But I want to look at it and say, you know, what could be done? How can innocent people, even in the times of war, how can we take care of them? I look at my neighbors the same way. How can we help them overcome this? And it may mean that I have to change to be the best help I can be. Maybe I have to change some of my preconceived notions. Maybe I have to look at the world differently. And so I just have committed to saying I'm willing to listen to what other people say. I'm willing to listen to other ideas, because I may not have all the truth out here. I may not have the correct perspective on every single thing. So until I die, I want to continue to learn. I want to continue to grow as a person. I want to continue to grow in my wisdom and my perspective. And to do that, I can't come in every situation like I've got it all figured out. When we do that, I think it's impossible then to influence people to change. And that's really sad when they have a hardened position towards the poor and those in need.
Michael, thank you very much. This is Bite by Bite.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curre Radio.